Hola, muy buenas.
Hello, good afternoon. We would like to thank the organizers, my colleague and myself. My colleague is the guy with the gray hair, by the way. We are representatives of the SICK magazine. Our friends from Rooted have been very kind and have invited us to attend and to moderate this debate. So thank you very much, Roman and your team. So as you can see, this year we will talk about something which is very special. We have to be honest about this. I don't know about you, but Luis and myself have no idea of what this all means, but it can be really interesting. Civilian cybersecurity offensives, the role to be played by hackers when training snipers. Just to give you some background and context, where we would like to have most tricky questions, and not all tricky questions from the floor, we've gone all the way to the dictionary, because there are definitions that we need to know about. And in the dictionary, a sniper is someone that doesn't belong to an army. That is the first meaning of that word in the Spanish dictionary. The second meaning is that of someone who is hiding and who uses firearms to shoot on the enemy. It can be a digital trigger, of course. The third meaning is someone that acts in an isolated fashion in any type of activity without sticking to the discipline of the group they may belong to. So these are the three meanings of the concept sniper in the Spanish dictionary. So let me move on to the introduction of the people participating in the round table. The far end, Javier Candau is head of cybersecurity at the Spanish Institute for Cryptology. He's a lieutenant colonel in artillery and an industrial engineer and an expert cryptologist himself. A huge track record. But let me focus on the industrial engineer side. You have a very well-structured brain, I'm sure. The next person is Miguel Bañón. Good evening. Miguel is also an excellent professional. He's an analyst. He is the CEO of a company in Spain devoted to safety assessments, security assessments. They evaluate security functionalities of information technologies using standard criteria. So he's very well informed about vulnerabilities, limitations in efficiency, and other things. True, Miguel? He has a degree in IT with a very long track record. Then Adolfo Fernandez, our next guest, is a member of Tiber. He also has a degree in IT. And despite his being very young, he has a very wide experience in anything to do with cybersecurity in general. The next person is an unknown character, Mr. Roman Ramirez. No one knows him. I don't know what to say about him. Should I say anything? Well, Roman is a giant in this discipline. He knows a lot about all sorts of things, about all disciplines and arts and science. And by the way, I would encourage you to say out loud exactly what you think, okay? Next speaker, Jorge Davila, or next guest. Jorge is a dear friend of mine. He's a professor of information technology at the Central University, the Polytechnic University of Madrid. He's a cryptologist.
I have always thought that you are a crypto analyst within all the disciplines. Of course, you had been building on different arts and specialties. Roman is such a controversial person, and the next speaker in line is Carlos Sargoso. He is an extraordinary professional. He is analyst and researcher about incidents, responses, and forensics. He's also an IT person. He works for an outstanding company, so security, and for the Samsung Institute as well, uh, tackling different IT activities. You are doing such a brilliant job. Valero, Valera, I'm introducing yourself as a hacker. Perhaps many other colleagues will introduce you as a hacker to us. Uh, he's working for a partner company. And if you agree with me, let's give a period of 5 minutes to each speaker for giving us their views about this topic, civil offensive cybersecurity, the role of hackers in the training of snipers. Thank you, Pepe, for sharing my ideas. Very firstly, I want to precise and streamline concepts. Cybersecurity is a defensive term. Cybersecurity is a defensive term. If we move on to the offensive term, is cyber defense. So the national defense can be executed defensive or offensively. Uh, National defense consists of several tools and weapons to execute this defense. Cannons, short and long weapons. This can be equal to some IT weapons. Regarding the very first part of the title, Civil Offensive Security, I will be a cyber defense as to knowing how the nation can help us do a better electronic and cyber electronic better defense for the nation. Whether you are the Ministry of Defense or other ministries, we don't have the whole knowledge myself. We need to buy knowledge from others. That's why we have a good community of researchers stemming from the university and these firms that can double check everything. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't use the word snipers. I would say team of researchers. A sniper has some capacities and actions, but for you to reach some objective as a whole, both in the defensive and the offensive areas, we do need these researchers to be working as a team, as a whole, teaming up with each other. If we move on to the offensive part, the actions to be carried out implies eliminating the traceability. We try to hide and conceal the actions we carried out from the people's eyes. As a parenthesis, as you may know, the cybersecurity, we are defensive in the cybersecurity department. We are defensive in our department. This being said, if we want to eliminate all these things, these people's activities needs to be controlled and checked. We may have a whole set of snipers working all together, shoulder by shoulder, but we need to make sure these snipers are meeting and fulfilling the objectives our nation is establishing, because we have hired them. The moment we get these capacities, we can do so many things, and I'll leave it that for your reflection. The floor is for Don Miguel. Mr. Miguel, you have the floor. So far, so good. You have included so many things in the slide. We should break down all these issues. One of the inputs is about the isolated individual acting without coordination, the lone wolf moving around. This applies to the civil field, somebody shooting rampagely against the people in the street. So there are correlations, similarities, metaphors. Um, Being individual in cybersecurity makes no sense, because as an individual, you need technology and research. And if you're starting shooting around randomly with their own individual interests, we can create such a mess in the cybersecurity world. We need order. We are missing and lacking order, design, and we need to make the whole piece of the puzzle, making a whole tool. We need to piece all this puzzle together. So no existing Ministry of Defense can be called attacking minister. We are called offensive. So to be honest, I don't know how people do with defense system. I have been working, even though have been working in the defensive area, I have no fucking idea of cybersecurity. I'm not more into the offensive area, but the national capacity of defense should be given relevance to the specialty training and protection of offensive capacities. Offensive capacities are the best possible way of investing in defense and cybersecurity and knowledge. It's not about keeping people individually acting. It has to follow a bigger scheme of organization. And from then on, I will move the floor to the next speaker. Thank you, Mr. Miguel. Adolfo, you have the floor. Basically, with no coverage, the offensive part, obviously, the offensive part is the less known. In my view, the offensive part lies on the civil sector. We're not the very first one to admit it. We're not the very first ones in coping with that. Some campuses have articulated mechanisms to get closer to this, not to be criminalized. In reality, I would have focused the title of this talk on not all about how the civil sector can train snipers, but how can we make these people from the civil sector be snipers. We can boost the outsourcing or the hiring civilly these snipers. We can create a kind of civil cybersecurity reserve for those people that in the coming future want to share their knowledge in the defense of the nation, not as a patriot action, taking into account the current scenario in the politic in Spain. We need to attract our patriot talent onto us. We are frustrated in the private sector when it comes to do a really offensive approach, a biggest collaboration, a real exercise, the tangible thing which is to defend a country from an attack. We are very focused on criminalize any kind of civil action from an offensive viewpoint. We are getting through a variety of regulations, rules, where this hacker community is harassed. But we are not doing anything for this hacker community be able to give their knowledge to the whole country's help.
Hola, gracias. Perdonad por...
Sorry for the microphones. You know, my apologies for my microphone. You know my mind about this, my position. We try to avoid a skid off this topic. What is going to happen with the script to be sent? And one person out of this script will die in Iran. But we're going to do the defacement of a word, but sometimes you are going to mark a position of a person because you wouldn't have been able to choose the position of a person through some queries, and you are moving this information to a sniper who is going to kill that person in defense of a person. Unfortunately, has this kind of muddy waters that have to be executed by somebody. If we are not deceived, if we need to live into reality. These things happen, and they are going to happen worse or better. This means that I don't like mercenary snipers. I do respect my military comrades from the law enforcement group, but and the military has the principle of adhesion to the homeland. Mercenary paid wicked people from Blackwater do bad things, and they justify it in the pursuit of defending certain interests. This relationship between the military and private sector, I don't like it. It's true that there is a bottom line problem which needs to cope with, which is the military preparation prepares soldiers, and the soldiers have a specific preparation to understand the command, the orders executed in the command chains, and this is an antagonist with what we are talking about right now. So we are like scratch cats. We need to focus on the fact that the soldiers are the only ones who have to exert the force for the benefit of our country within the treatment of crimes. We need to specialize our soldiers, and then with the command of a police officer, the civil guard, or a soldier, we may collaborate with individual parts of the private sector through ordained and control protocols, but never under the control of a mercenary company. Thank you, Roman.
Don Jorge.
Bueno, pues yo ya me ha pisado un montón de argumentos, Román, pero yo querría...
Roman has pissed me, has tread on many of my arguments. I'm Jorge. We didn't find the social pact and agreement by which individuals give upon violence and give the privilege to the state for standard for citizens' rights. Before that, I have the version. I'm going to the middle-aged mister, and this mister could have defended myself with the dark ages and the economy. So the civil offensive capacity per se is a crime. Secondly, let's hypothetically accept that, okay, we accept that any individual is entitled to defend itself. This would sweep around internet and destroy internet. We should have cyber theft, cyber booty people. There may be another life beyond the internet. Because of that, we might have discovered terrorism. The concept of offensive in the cyberspace, I cannot say it, I cannot visualize it. We need to start what you can win. The offensive in the cyberspace cannot be won. Many offensive in the cyberspace are not. You know who is the author, who is your enemy, who was second, third degree consequences your actions have. The concept offensive only introduces noise, confusion, and it can backfire on you. So training of hackers, okay, tests as the forensics tests and stress tests within the system. We need to conduct them, but this not means it means to be able to attack, but it does not mean that we are going to attack. We are taking wisdom accumulated in this community and put it into the service of making more secure services. If there are not vulnerabilities, there are no exploits. In my viewpoint, we're given different approaches and standpoints and tenets. I coincide with many of the things that they have said. I think I can see a gap, big difference between those of you having the technical ability of carrying out these offensive capacities regarding those of you who really can exert them on a legal basis. So how can we wrap up and shut down the whole thing? Two approaches, as they said before, trying that those legally able to exert and have the capacity, and within the military world, nobody will be able to have all the capacities within the soldiers. We are always a step back on this. On the other side, we need to regulate and govern the activities done by the cybersecurity people to support and stand up for the law enforcement groups and all organizations doing these activities. I wanna I want to mention and bring up some of my experiences. One of where is the grassroots for people to train on this issue, the cybersecurity, on a civil basis? In the United States of America and Israel, there are initiatives in the public and private sector as to getting these two worlds closer. In the States, you have Infragar, is a FBI partnered with the private sector, and if you go to infracar.org, is an association made up of law enforcement group locally and stately, sharing information, developing capacities with the private sector in the full range of offensive and defensive, because there is a necessity of developing the offensive capacities.
Buenas. Yo la verdad que no sé qué.
Oh my goodness, what on earth I'm doing here? I don't know why I'm here. I'm hearing so many technicalities and lingos here. I don't consider myself being a hacker. There's no hidden community looking for things. I don't consider, as may have mentioned, that motivating these people into going into the school to teach others. I like to press and code. I like clean code, and my code is executing. It's my point. It's what I like to do. No matter how many times you are telling me I need to defend my country, I'm not motivated into that, regardless of my ideology or moral. I'm saying that when I'm doing what you said, I'm hacking. I'm not hacking. I play around with the code. I like this code. I dislike this code. I can paste this over here. Things are happening. All of these things, I'm doing them because they are going to give me some internal feedback. I wouldn't mind to do other things. I'm not a silly. Of course, if you are proposing me to take in $3 million, I will leave you. If you are if you are obliging me to do things, I will leave that company very soon. Many of the people called hackers as such have been. We talk about scientific related IT issues. Oh, oh my! I burst out cry because I created and discovered such a wonderful code. So it's not about giving you a code that allows you to sneak in through all the computers all the world. What are you going to do with this code? Good things, bad things? If I had this code, I would give it a big thought about revealing, disclosing this code, because I'm not going to benefit from revealing a big code. The moment you publish it, it's a public domain. The community of hackers only have knowledge because they forge themselves acquiring this knowledge. Do you think I want to use my knowledge against another country? This is the fucking monster trying, the typical thug trying to launch in exploits, destroy service. How can I focus on the situation in my country? I don't know myself what on earth I'm doing here. You said you are an engineer. If you're an engineer, it's because you like engineering, because you like to press things, touch things, take the guts out of things. So we hackers, like what we're doing at that moment in time, period. If you propose an object as a hacker, this thing wouldn't be likable to the hacker again. So in the very beginning, I started checking a code. I was a youngster. I like to plan around video games. I moved to the page number 13 on the guidelines, and I did learn more things about these video games. So, of course, as a pirate, as a hacker, as a kid, I was trying to dismantle things, playing with things. I only have a novel motivation with these toys. Of course, I want to know the password to deploy the toys. So motivation for lies on so many things. In my particular case, since I've been doing this, I participate in several groups, and all the information collected has been openly published. Some things are not published because some specific code is mine. I don't want it to be outside for a malware creator to vulnerate system as crazy. I'm not into the full range of my interests. If you, whether I'm a fucking monster or not, the civil defense, I don't know why are you using the concept of sniper applied to hackers. Makes no sense to me, honestly.
Al comenzar el debate, no sabemos de qué va el tema, tampoco estamos de acuerdo exactamente.
To be honest, I don't know what the topic is all about. Frankly, why are we using a sniper as a concept? We don't know, but we need a debate on this issue. So let's ask tricky and captious questions. Okay, very short questions for each and every of you. Javier, do we need these snipers? Are we paying these snipers properly for their business? Do the sniper exist? We need snipers. There exist snipers, and by the way, snipers on cybersecurity are very well paid. Are there cybersecurity snipers in Spain? Yes. Yesterday, we got a magazine regarding cybersecurity. We got a press release saying that they got an intelligent and autonomous algorithm able to repel the attacks without human intervention. I don't know if it would be a self-sniper. Is this a self-sniper? Would we be able to do this regardless of the non-inherence of certain people? Are there technologies in the forum thinking about and taking decisions as technologies per se without consulting with us human beings? My goodness. Regarding this press release communicator, this so-called tool, which is fucking good, does not use neither signatures or rules. So many people missing here. Those sentimentalists who get emotional about the scientific code per se, non-scientific usable. We talk about the fusion at atoms. Among these are those using it for other things, and then the marketing people are using it as well. They are super good. We are stealing products through the door with a leaflet of capacities, and we read a line: switch off mechanism, no passwords and keys revealed, no disclosure. Fantastic. I attended a presentation during a day of promoting investors in the United States, and thanks to criteria certifications, their technology would be able to sort it out, the problems with the internet. And this guy in the States collected so many millions out of this declaration. Of course, these newsletters you received is okay, and it's true. I'm skipping the line. I share what you're saying is the very same phase that Albert Einstein, when he was researching theoretical physics, was called Manhattan Project for a different purpose he thought of. I'm not talking about patriotic people shooting for their country. There are people, but there are people in the necessity, is my belief. The necessity when a bad situation comes to us, there's not always the Bilderberg Club or dark hand acting behind. I would like that people like you, my friend, people like us, my friends, keep a vigilant eye on me by knowing there's a necessity. It's a fact. There's a gap in between the military and the civil people. I wouldn't say they should be an obligation. No. please don't think about if Einstein if Einstein had only thought about what he liked it, would have thought so many things. I'm not talking about the obligation or the obligatoriousness, but the one who wanted to give their knowledge to us should not be criminalized. Do you agree with Rodolfo, with Miguel? Oh, I do agree with you. Less with Miguel in the salary area, because what do you consider Miguel being well paid? When we get job offers from abroad, foreign companies, 75,000 sober, I volunteer for that. The situation, the impasse has to be ruled and governed, regulated in such a way. You are around this table because, okay, you don't care about, you have your own life, man. But in the very end, this affects everybody. And when we have travel with relating ourselves with Romania, Ukraine, China, or the United States, attacking our infrastructures, this is the problem for everybody. Under the control of the military who are the only ones entitled to apply transactional force, the only one, the military, who can unfortunately exert violence against us, citizens. You know my position. We are not going to back up that somebody considers himself being a libertador or a freedom people in the streets trying to free myself. I didn't give you permission to hack somebody else web or kill somebody in the streets. This has to be done in a regulated and ordered way with objectives which are good for the society. This is the essence, the quintessence of this. I see it very complicated, but this is it, period. Why an American people authorized to wear a physical arm cannot wear a cybernetic weapon? Oh, because Americans are savages, are wild. Oh, the poor Americans got there. They fed on the very first turkey they found. They kill around all the indigenous, no indigenous around, and they said, okay, I am a state. The American people consider the FBI to be an intermission in their rights. Americans hate FBI. The social concept, generally European, is not given in the States and is not applicable to the Asia. Please don't compare the American situation where the state it's only there to take money from you and to pay the cybersecurity agencies and the military. When you are sick and when you retire, depend on the money you have. And when you have a real trouble, oh my goodness, fuck you. This is not the concept of the state we have. In Europe, we cannot wear 2 centimeter razors or knives or less, more pistols. If when you have trouble, you call the military, the civil guard, the police, and it's their obligation to apply the procedures, including, in some cases, the proportionality. Oh, countries with CIA's facts and saved my homeland are gangsters, the classical extortions from mafia, classical extortions among the cards. This is not the right way to live. Do we want this on the internet? I quit. I want something with added value. There are gonna be okay, funky people around. There will be always like this that should be arrested. The idea of the factness on the internet is not disturbable. It's not worth looking. No matter how much cyber harassment you are using, Chinese people will be there strapped as French, and they will be attacking us, and our shots will be sent back to the French people because they're really coming from China. Oh, Carlos, you're the well-experienced guys through your company. A lot of exotic scenarios close to the Middle East, behind and under the rags related to the forensics. What can you tell us about? Before responding to you, I want to clarify something to Abel. When he was expressing, split out his way of living, I think that we all, many of us around this table, we feel certain level of passion, not only for the code. When I'm dealing with responses to incidents, when a client suffers an incident, I'm so enjoying so much the situation.
Qué bien lo han hecho y
Deep inside of yourself, you're thinking, wow, he's been hacked so well. And that then your passion goes against the interests of your own client. So you need to strike a balance, one way or another. But going back to that question, obviously there are different things in different continents and different things in different countries. In the Middle East, to give you an example, it is not uncommon that during certain investigations, the equipment is given offensive powers. I've been analyzing data on certain intrusions, and at a certain point they know that they will not get everything, absolutely everything, legally. They need to have the information. They need to have it because they've been impacted negatively by an attack. So a sniper comes into the room, they do their job, and they say, this is what I found. And that's the type of information that they can get. Obviously, under certain circumstances, getting a sniper in the room is blatantly illegal, but I think it can be regulated legally. To give you an example, in the US, it is relatively frequent that if anyone is attacking a government agency, that person could be contacted to find out who is behind, for example, a Twitter account. There are companies that deliver that type of services. It is relatively commonplace. But as I was saying at the beginning, whoever looks for those services has the authority to do that. Obviously, this is usually an outsourced activity. So there are snipers, there's been snipers, and there will be snipers in the future. And in certain countries, as I said before, privacy is worth basically nothing. I think one of the most dangerous things in life is to deny reality or being a hypocrite. Things change so fast. When we talk about wars, well, you wave your flag and the armies go against each other because they have declared war on the enemy. But in cyber defense, all operations take place, or most operations take place, before there is a formal declaration of war. So we are in an empty space, legally speaking. And the only way to try and do things which are effective enough is by breaking the law. If you don't want to have complaints about people breaking the law, well, pass a law which is adequate for whatever we need. There are shameful actions that take place everywhere because there is a mismatch between what needs to be done and the legislation that should be in place to back it up. Obviously, we need a set of rules, a set of standards, and until then, we'll keep seeing shameful actions taking place. I think we have to be clear and name names and call things by the right way. We need regulations that haven't been defined yet. Very interesting, Abel. Well, someone mentioned you. You've talked about the need for people that can be trainers. We've heard about security problems. We've heard, as he was saying, what's in it for you if you attack? People have been here talking about thousands of bugs. Tread on them, or do you have a community of hackers that are telling you for free, why should we attack? let us focus our efforts on training trainers. When you create a critical infrastructure, make sure that you can protect it. Don't hire the first person coming along. If we're talking about a nuclear power plant, it just doesn't make any sense. So if you're building something relevant, make sure you have the security in place. Instead, people are lured by all those people, all those hackers that are hired to provide defense to those infrastructures. Whereas people like me and people I know of, they investigate and find bugs that are reported. You've seen the daily reports on bugs. Bugs that are reported to companies that are running really old systems. What are we complaining about really? What are we looking for? Yeah, I know that you like that, but reality goes in a different direction. But reality may be shaped by ourselves. Yeah, but there is a basic problem we have in our hands. We're talking about defensive approaches. How about training those people that build the systems so they know how they can be attacked and make them ready whenever those attacks take place? I just heard that they have a breakdown. They have no electricity in Syria. They don't have any electricity in Syria right now. You can imagine things. Anyway, if you allow me, so that we don't get too polarized in this debate, there's one thing that was not mentioned. And regardless of whether you agree or disagree with the idea of using snipers in this context, and despite Jorge's opinion on this being blatantly illegal, something I don't agree with. But regardless of that, how many of you understand what a sniper is? What should a sniper be like in this context? Roman is raising his hand. Jorge, feel free to respond. Just 1 second. From my point of view, I think we're all clear about a sniper. A sniper is a hyper specialist, if you like. Someone that can hit a target at a really amazing distance, bearing in mind the potential consequences of their acts. They know what the consequences can be and what the effects can be of the shot. It's like, for example, a hacker that uses exploits as weapons and hits targets. I'm not talking about ideologies or states or countries. That's a sniper. The sniper deserves to get payment for what they do. This is something I mentioned already at another forum with Adolfo. The problem is, where do we train snipers? Because we have lots of people here weaponizing, using exploiting, using reversing. So lots of things can come out of that. But how do you deliver that training in an orderly manner so that it can be audited with the social contract in place, as Jorge was saying? I would be worried about a context where there is too much control from the powers of state. I don't like shady civil servants that prosecute everyone because they want to strike a balance. I prefer a more civilized type of balance, but the world has become much darker. We can close our eyes and we can keep searching for unicorns and rainbows, but things will be there, regardless of whether we acknowledge them or not. That's it. Thank you, Roman. Since we're talking about snipers, I remember that wonderful film about Stalingrad. At the Gates, I think it was the name. It was really a fight between the two best snipers, enemy at the gates. From that movie, from that film, what was the bottom line? The bottom line was that the Soviet soldier had killed 220 people with one bullet in most cases. Did that change the course of war? No, it didn't. I mean, the fact that Stalingrad didn't fall to the Nazis had an impact on the war. It was not the sniper that changed the course of that war. I think we are losing our focus here. Someone earlier today said that things are everywhere, and the Internet of Things had an impact on things like teddy bears for children. And then we heard that our software is blighted with bugs. I think the best attack would be to convince the buyers of software of the need to demand additional limitations so that they're not subject to attacks. I think this is upstream. Why are we buying software which is not safe enough? Because they have time to market requirements. Vendors have time to market requirements, and they don't apply the necessary measures. So I think we should focus there. Snipers will not be enough. I would agree with most of what Jorge said. With one sniper, we do nothing. But then, in the different states throughout the world, especially in Europe, there is a legal framework, but then we have the scale of grace. They attack, and then you have the doubt. Do you respond by attacking yourself? When you attack another nation and you're not physically present in the space of that enemy, what sort of context do you need to take into account? And then, as you say, cybersecurity is all about the quality that we may have in developing software. And we need a lot of talent to do this. I mean, there's lots of exploits all over the place. But really good development, we need to focus on that. It is very difficult to attract talent. And then the expiry date for these weapons is even shorter than for yogurts. So we need to have the knowledge and the teams we need. That's all we need. Let's avoid the situation where we have a staff board. Well, it's almost impossible. It's impossible to find no bugs in any code, of course. Yeah, my life would be much worse. Do you have questions yourselves on the floor? Yes? I cannot see too much with this light. It's actually a thought for me. Wouldn't this possibly be a conceptual mistake? We're talking about training people to become hackers or to become snipers, and perhaps this is about awareness. Perhaps we should tell people clearly that being a hacker is not necessarily a bad thing. Yes, we need to defend ourselves, but perhaps it's not about defending countries, it's about defending people. I know this is very idealistic, but if we focused on making people aware, let us not treat people as if they were objects. Let us not treat talented people as if they were skilled objects or skilled machines that we can use. Let us not talk about defending Spain or defend Europe. Let us talk about defending the people in our communities. Perhaps that's the key. Making people feel that they're inclined to get trained so that they can buy better software, develop better software, and use software in a better way. So it's about awareness. That might be the way forward. Without any awareness, without any proper awareness, as a solid foundation for everything we try, we will just be facing the dark reality around us. We need to tell people that what lies behind the scenes, so that there is light. I'd like to respond to your comments by saying, first of all, that I would agree with most of the things you said, but let us not forget pragmatism. We need to face the challenges we've got on the table and realize that there are things that have to run in parallel. Making people aware, well, let me give you an example. When elderly people use telephones, smart telephones, they feel helpless because they don't have the use of a smartphone hard-coded into their brain. Making people aware of things takes time. So reaching out to the masses, reaching out to society, to employees of companies, to governments, that takes time. It is something we must do. I don't think anyone will disagree, but at the same time we need to survive. And the problem is on the table right now. we need to feel that we're acting in the most professional manner so that we can provide adequate response to whatever is happening now. Very quick comments from me, very quick comments. What happened when humankind crossed that border from the Bronze Age into the Iron Age? I mean, civilizations using bronze, suddenly someone comes along with an iron sword that had a much sharper edge. How do you call that? Well, technology. They exterminated all those bronze civilizations. I have my own ideology. I believe in a world where we need to have responsible individuals that take responsibility for their own acts, but I'm not blind and I see what happens around me. And now let me respond with a question. Where is the border for people? Is the border at the edge of our neighborhood? Around my bed? In my place? Is it Catalonia? Catalonians are Spanish? Are they people? Are they not people? The question makes sense. Where is the border? Who should we fight for? The people in my street? In my neighborhood? Everyone? In what sense should we fight? I don't believe in nations or member states. I believe in cultures and people that are part of those cultures, so we'll need to do something to defend them. I've heard the issue of quality a couple of times. I think that I'll retire with an overall negative balance about my professional activity, because I will leave my industry in a much worse situation than when I joined. Why is this? Because technology is moving at such a high pace without proper control on the quality of the iron we use. If you want to launch a startup today, if you want to organize a crowdfunding campaign, success factors have nothing to do with the security of the product. They have to do with design, with marketing, with things like that. So, the people and the companies that are investing in launching new products and services will try and do their best to make their investment worthwhile with things, with criteria that have nothing to do with security. I've seen no improvements over all this time. No improvements in terms of the demands imposed on vendors to add security to their products. So we have quite a regrettable level of quality. Then we have program obsolescence, and we pay no attention to security in everything we sell and manufacture. Any questions? There is one there. We might run out of time. It was you and someone else? 2, 3 questions. As regards what you said before, the idea of creating a school for hackers, I come from a public university and my lecturers do what they do with the resources that are given to them. With the money spent every year in cyber defense or on training people for cyber defense, wouldn't it be better to invest on the people that will develop the programs and the applications that will be used so that they can build better programs? Perhaps a faultless world is a boring world, but it's much better to have a world like that rather than paying hackers to defend ourselves against attacks. I don't know how much money is spent on cyber defense, but as much as you can pay to people, if people insist on developing software properly, they will get a reprimand, because in their companies they will tell him only about time to market, and that's it. I don't think it is an issue of training related to training as such. It was a long time ago that I visited my bar in the local faculty, but this is about market requirements. It is about consumer expectations, things that have nothing to do with quality and with security. So obviously we have a legal framework that is killing the industry. There's so much chaos around us. So we know how to do things well. I started working at the National Institute for Aerospace Engineering ages ago, and we did things that could fly They could be ugly, but they could fly. Okay? They could fly. We didn't do any hacking. So our efforts were focused on safety and security. But today, developing software for a driver for an aircraft is 1,000 times more expensive than a driver for other things. Doing things well is much more expensive. Companies that are starting to do business now will not be interested. They will not see that as a worthwhile effort. They'll come to you and tell you there is time to market. There are two worlds, the world we want to be and the world we have. Let us talk about the world around us, not about our expectations. Sorry, no sound? I'm worried about the terminology that we're using here. It's been quite a few years already. We've been concerned about the concept that society uses when they think about a hacker, or the other way around. And now we are called snipers. I think it is a bit dangerous in that sense. Well, the word sniper has to do with poetry, I guess. Don't take our word for it, okay? For those of you that mentioned the atomic bomb, let me remind you that the technical guys were taken to the desert, to the Nevada desert, under threats of extradition to Germany if they didn't build a bomb. What could happen is that talented people, skillful people in this room, under the control of non-democratic governments, are forced into making a cyber weapon. That's not the way. Let us hope that that never happens. All we can do, as Miguel says, he's so right, it's always the ugly guy in the company that you have to blame. How about demanding things as customers? In this country, no one objects to anything. How many releases of Java do we have to go back so that the industry, the government websites work efficiently? The example of the Department of Industry. Well, they've paid huge amounts of money for websites that are not working. And that was done by someone who knows about IT. And the university was involved in one way or another. So, Jorge, you're a sniper. We have another question from here. Hello. Very quick. Roman was talking about that border. Where do we define the border? Do you remember War Games, that film? The best option is not to play a game. That was the bottom line. So if we are thinking about where to go, where not to go, you might say that, well, to start with, I don't like to talk about the armed forces and the army and things like that. It's like thermonuclear war. The consequences are physical, they're real, very real. And a script can kill people. It can close, it can shut down a nuclear power plant. I think we really need to stay away from it and just not play. Let me respond along the same lines. Just imagine that Joshua in War Games decides to attack using a botnet with 4 CICs in different countries. He decides to launch an attack on the company I'm working in. I see in my computer that SQL injection is taking place. What do I do? You tell me. Should I stop playing? Hello? I wanted to pose a question. So, there's a delay? Okay, I'll get closer to the microphone. Since we're talking, there's a delay. I think it's a play in words, but we're unable to decipher it. We're talking about looking for hackers in civil society so that they can help organizations or states. Is there a conflict of interest between civil society and the state as such? That goes to Abel, basically, because he's on the civilian side and the others are part of organizations. I wouldn't really know how to answer. I'm here to listen to what people have to say, talking about snipers and things. What I can say from my side is that in some cons, some colleagues have been approached by people that were trying to hire them to do some obscure things. It's what they were saying here. I mean, talent has a close connection with money. I haven't encountered myself in that situation. I've never been approached by someone telling me, put together a weapon for me so that I can attack someone. I've never heard that. Do they approach hackers? Of course, I'm sure they do. But I couldn't really tell you. I couldn't really give you an answer. It's never happened to me. It's been many years in this profession. You don't tell everyone about everything you do, of course. You give talks and you speak about the things you've been doing. And it may well be that people approach you with legitimate reasons, asking you about what you've done, but not necessarily by people that wanting to hire you as hackers. There is a final present for the participants.
No sé si queréis decir una consecuencia, un consejo, una reflexión o un chiste.
So one final comment from participants. On the defensive side, we really have a long way ahead of us. About what Miguel was saying, it is a shame that our certification authority that is in charge of validating products sees that up to 90% of products coming from abroad, only 10% of products come from Spain, and that is a shame. But this is something we should think about carefully. And then, on the offensive side, many things have been said. We would like to see an ideal world around us, but unfortunately that is not the case. There's a large number of attacks happening every day. Those attacks go against our knowledge, against the intellectual property of companies, and that is happening, and no one knows anyone. We can close our eyes, but the situation is what it is, and this is what we need to face. We can do two things, either defending ourselves only when the enemy comes along, or be a bit more proactive. That is up to all of us, really. It's been a really interesting roundtable, I have to say. About the definition of snipers, I think we've talked about two things that are very different from each other. One is about a guy that shoots people. I don't think that has any future. I mean, operations don't take place in an isolated manner. Snipers are not isolated. Now, weapon manufacturers or technology manufacturers, that is a reality. So I think we shouldn't be hypocrites and know about the rules of the game, rather than playing a game without rules, which is really very risky and very dangerous. But we are very hypocrites when big hypocrites when we read the headlines. There are some countries leading the way, and they're beginning to implement new legislation. So I think that in the near future, we will have less controversial debates like this, because we will have more rules in place in different countries.
Tal vez viva en un mundo utópico, soy perfectamente...
I am aware of the world we live in. I even give blood, not knowing what my blood is used for. I mean, I've heard terrible stories about blood being sold illegally, but anyway, I will not stop giving blood. Honestly, in a bad situation, what I think we need to think about, without labeling anyone or naming names, when we go through a difficult situation, If we have the knowledge to defend ourselves, be it analyzing code or doing anything else, I, as a citizen, would like to have the ability to respond. It's like the 11th of March after the terrorist attacks in Madrid, where people flooded hospitals giving blood. When there is an attack on the security and the safety of our citizens, we must have no doubt. I don't know how to articulate this, how to organize this exactly, but we really need to think about this carefully and decide whether we want to lend a hand, even without getting a request from anyone.
I don't know how to put it, but we need a moral regime for avoid this going the savage far west on my behalf. Oh, we should, as a community, be in the right direction. I don't want to use adjectives. As a community, we should help on this point because we are on that side, but the remaining citizens don't know what we're doing. We as a community, the governors, the rulers should step forward as to shaping how things should work properly within this topic. Sincerely, frankly, I think that reflection upon what we're talking to, we have two roads, rules or no rules. If no rules, this is the jungle. I always define myself as a person. The rules, the law is the only thing that can make me be living with somebody I can't put up with, whose lifestyle I don't like. Law is the only equalizer with those I hate. If I don't have rules as to managing conflictive situations, and I prefer living in the thought that nothing is going to happen, we are in the phase of 40 dark years in the looming future. This coming reality is going to be symmetry and technology are twin sisters, my friends. Last point. The great default and the big default that we all incur when we think that this is the waterlound full of wonderful people. We forget about the fact that there are bad people. They has to be confronted by law enforcement people. And should we do what Texan people do, wearing weapons, shooting at themselves? No, please. The current legislation in force has to be adjusted to the coming realities. But we need common sense. We need to think about what to do. We don't have to move around by the situation. We need to neutralize. Should we neutralize bonded citizens, or to put in place a unit to fuck off the Greek people, the Romanian people? When I talk about offensive, as God is willing, backing down those who are enemies, not in our own defense, the civil world has their own liberties, and the law enforcement group has the strictest restrictions. No matter who is doing this, it has to be conducted under strictest restrictions. I don't want to end up living in a country where the state is confronting their own population. This has happened all over the places in this planet. And should I be able to do? And B, I would be a refugee. I want to tackle another issue. In my viewpoint, there's nothing more satisfactory rather than the talent from people in this room helping us. Let's make their talent a profession. This talent has to help others. Your talent has to serve us. Your motivation has to change and reshape the problems. Out of my experience, don't fear being collaborators under delicate situations. Like I always say, I have a more defensive profile rather than offensive one. I always say my team people, we need to arrest the bad guys, the villains, as soon as possible, whether it is a defensive or offensive profile. In the very end, your talent will reverse and will contribute to making and reshaping this bad reality. In my view, my tenet is basically that each and every one of us has to accept their own morale. As you command, if I go around my neighborhood there putting fire on everything, I should get um, a buckle. No, some water to extinguish the fire. If I'm in the course of a guerrilla anywhere in the world, if somebody asks me for help, I should help him. Are we a hacker community? So here, knowledge is freely distributed all over us. I constantly talk to and with colleagues devoted to other researchers. They comment on their researches in a very open way by exchanging information with many other times. You put a technician, those running a defense department, for them to come here and they start talking about with people here, no coverage, no strings touch. The hackers here will tell this defensive person, okay, this is going on. You talk about marketing, you like to create brand new terms, not only referring to the so-called snipers or patriots. This is, it's a fucking good marketing. In this world, we need to spell out things. 2 years ago, I had the slightest idea of whom I am. That's true. It seems I appear here from the out of the nothing. Oh, RootedCon. They know the people who didn't know me before shared their information. I reciprocated back to them without charging any monies. Of course, there could be spurious interests underlying. One of them might have wanted to destroy us, the government, but it's not the case usually. There may be a sporadic uncontrolled situations, but that's an exception. So this is the end of this debate. You had been so many views and positions. There's such a dissimilarity and disparity of tenets, viewpoints, minds that we as moderators cannot take sides, by the way. We are impartial and neutral. But there are two points aligning what you said to us. There are two things I wanted to brought up. There are always going to be people who are better aimed than others. They aim up the bullpoint. Secondly, not only the role of snipers exists, this is one of the roles, but not the unique role. Luis and myself have the perception, the feeling that the hacker communities are stopping having the control of what they are, of what the perception that society has from them. In a very quickest way. As we say in these debates, I will give the floor back to Mr. Roman to say the final words. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, panelists, for this fabulous debate. Next year, we should repeat it to having better aim in our shots. And by gathering very divergent and different people. So wait more, please, wait longer, because we have an extra talk afterwards. And please fill in the